Hello, everybody. On this day in 1958, there was an attempted assassination of Martin Luther King. He was doing a book signing in New York, and a woman came up and stabbed him. He referred to this incident in a wonderful speech that he gave the day before he was actually assassinated, in which he refers to the fact that the knife that stabbed him came within millimeters of rupturing his arteries and leading to his death. The paper in New York said the next day that if he had sneezed, he would have died. And he says in this speech later on that he remembers a letter that he received following this attempted assassination. He'd had letters from the president, from the vice president, from the mayor of New York, but he couldn't remember what they said. But he remembered the letter of this 9-year-old white girl who wrote to him saying, Dr. King, I have heard the news and I'm really sorry, and I'm glad you didn't sneeze. And then in the speech he goes on to say that he's glad he didn't sneeze, because if he had sneezed, he wouldn't have been around to be part of the protests that he led, to be part of the campaign that he was part of to bring freedom to the black people of America and of the world. And earlier on in the same speech, he talks about the fact that he is glad that he was born to be around in the second half of the 20th century. He goes through all the periods of history in the speech, indicating the different reasons why it might have been interesting to live then, the time of Christ, the time of Socrates, the Renaissance. But he says, no, I'm really pleased that the Almighty has allowed me to live in the second half of the 20th century so that I can be part of the attempt to bring about a better world in a world that is an awful mess. Well, I found this reassuring because I find myself very often despairing as I look at the world around me, and I feel as though it's all too much. Everything is moving in the wrong direction, and I feel really helpless to do much about it. But here's Martin Luther King, faced with almost equivalent odds all those years ago, but saying he's glad that he's alive to be challenged by them and to respond to them, not with what he calls a compassion by proxy, not standing at a distance, but becoming engaged with all the different ways in which he fought for the freedom of black people. And today I want to, in spite of my occasional despair, to commit myself again to working for the world that we live in, not just to regret that so much is going on that seems to be wrong and destructive, but on the other hand, to be glad that I'm here and that I can be part of the movement that tries to bring a stop to some of these movements and to create a better world, not with compassion by proxy, but by really engaging with the issues of the world and playing my part to make it a better place to live in.